Namaste, everyone. Brihat welcomes you to this auspicious gathering. We are here today to celebrate Bhakti. In the Hindu tradition, Bhakti or devotion has a special place. This complete surrender to the Supreme is beyond intellect, and it has found beautiful poetic expression throughout our literature. And we are here today to acknowledge, to celebrate, and to pay our respects to one such saint, poet, Andal, on whose pasurams this beautiful book, Maalyada, the Sacred Garland, is based. Such is her bhakti and selfless service to Bhagwan that Bhagwan himself asks her for her and she merges with him as his rightful consort, an incarnation of Bhudevi herself. This yearning and its fulfillment are celebrated with great reverence during the auspicious month of Margashish. We can now light the lamp, and I request Anandak and Jeysundhar to please. So, coming to why we have gathered here today, we are delighted to launch Maalyada, the Sacred Garland, through a book discussion with the author. Maalyada has been written by Jeysundhar, and it's illustrated by the noted artist Keshav. It has 30 chapters, with each chapter elaborating on one pasuram. And we have the honor of having Jeysundhar with us today. And he's going to tell us more about the book in a bit. But before that, I would like to welcome Padma Shri, Dr. Ananda Shankar Jayanti. She's not only an artist par excellence, but also a teacher, a mentor, and a civil servant herself. I now request her to grace the occasion with a few words.
Thank you, Brihat, for this wonderful release of Maalyada. We've all been hearing about it. Congratulations to Mr. Jeysundhar for writing this book at this young an age. Really tapping into the civilizational ethos. Centuries. I mean, I'm really absolutely amazed that a young officer took time off to write something about Andal. So today, something very interesting happened to me. When I was asked to be the chief guest here, and I told myself, I better get prepared for what I'm going to say. So I don't know, I know a few of the pasurams, but don't know them all by heart. But I quickly went to my bookshelf to look for a book that has always stayed with me. And this is the book. And this is an old book, Tiruppāvai textual. I don't know how old it is. I think someone gifted it to me. And I just opened it. And it fell on the 28th pasuram, which is today. So I said, this is something special. This is something really beautiful. So I would start with that. So, Karavaigal Pin Shendra, can you just say something about today's pasuram?
கரவைகள் பின் சென்று காணம் சேர்ந்துண்போம் அறிவொன்றும் இல்லாத ஆய்குலத்து உந்தன்னை பிறவி பெருந்தன்னை புண்ணியம் யாமுடையோம் குறைவொன்றும் இல்லாத கோவிந்தா உந்தன்னோடு உறவேல் நமக்கெங்கு ஒழிக்க ஒழியாது அறியாத பிள்ளைகளும் அன்பினால் உந்தன்னை சிறுபேர் அழைத்தனவும் சீறி அருளாதே இறைவா நீ தாராய் பறையேலோர் எம்பாவாய். In the structure of the Tiruppāvai, the gopis along with Andal, they go to Krishna seeking the gift of Parai. So in that, what they seek is the experience of Krishna Anubhava, to be in union with Krishna. As we know, yesterday was what is celebrated as Kudaravalli, or the 27th day. If you look at the structure of Tiruppāvai, in the second pasuram itself, the gopis take a vow that they will not take ghee or milk and all those luxurious things of life that a cattle herder would be partaking in. They stop, or they vow that they will not be taking it anymore. When they come to the 27th day, their vratha is nearing its completion. So whatever they said that they will not take, they say now they will take it because Krishna himself has given it to them. so that they would wear new clothes on. They would have rice mixed with milk along with ghee, and there would be so much ghee that the ghee would flow from their palms all the way to the elbows. Now, this is the most vivid image that is conjured in the 27th Pasuram. Now, after having done that in the 27th Pasuram, in the 28th Pasuram, as with all rituals, the structure of the ritual is that Andal goes about the full entirety of the Pavai Nombu, where she gets the benefit of the blessing of Krishna Anubhava in the 27th Pasuram. In the 28th Pasuram, in my book I have titled it as Aparadha Kshama. So what Andal essentially does is that she seeks the forgiveness of Krishna. She says that we are young cowherd girls. We do not know the intricacies of your magnificence, your vibhuti. We don't know how great you are. We thought because you are here playing with us as a cowherd, we thought you are one of us and we called you all sorts of names. So do not go away from us simply because we did this. She says, Namakingu Urikke Uriyadu. The bond between us can never be broken. We are one and we will always be one. We will always be at the refuge of your feet. So do not break this bond ever. And they seek the forgiveness of Krishna in this Pasuram, which is why I've titled it in my book as Aparadha Kshama.
There's also this line of Kurayondrumille in that, which
Yes.
is a song that all of us have grown up with MS Amma singing it. I think this Pasuram also talks about the fact that I have really nothing, no problems, because you're with me. Kurayondrumille. So tell us, Jeysundhar, how did you, has this been a childhood learning for you, a family training, or is it something that you came into later? The whole Andal, the Vaishnava Sampradaya, as well as the Andal writings.
So my grandfather was Sadhu Sri Pittukuli Murugadas. Yes. So.
Okay. Okay. We've all heard him. You know, that early morning, I used to study in Kalakshetra, and early morning, we used to have this song that would play on the radio. I can still remember it.
Okay. So his songs is what we grew up on because we like Andal does with Krishna, we thought, he's our grandfather, so, we took a lot of prerogative with him. Only then later to realize that he was so beloved to so many people and his songs were so memorable and have shaped the lives of so many people in their morning listening to music. That we came to know later, and to us he was always Murugatata. We never knew the Pittukuli Murugadas. We always called him Murugatata. His cassettes abounded in the house, and the old National Panasonic recorder played only those all day. So among his several recordings, Murugaiya, yes.
Murugaiya. It's something that stays in my head forever.
Wasn't one of his, but yeah, he sang Nadariyum Nurumalai in the same movie, yeah. But anyway, so among his compendium of recordings were 4 compositions of Tiruppāvai. He did not sing the entire album. He sang 1, 2, 3, and 5. So I listened to that as a child, and I realized that there was something about those songs, and of course his rendition of them brings so much value to the listening. It makes it seem like you could also pick it up and sing it someday. But the verses of the Tiruppāvai seemed so easy to sing along to. It's only much later that I realized that that Andal has put in so much profundity of Sri Vaishnava philosophical thought into those pasurams. So yeah, that's how it started. And much later I would come across every time I would face some sort of a problem. Somehow Tiruppāvai kept popping back into my life. And like for example, in the Gita, Krishna says this phrase "Ma suchaha," not to worry. This comes, of course, famously in the Charama Sloka, which we know because it is the last and it contains the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So where he says Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mam Ekam Charanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayisyami Ma suchaha. But he uses the same phrase 2 more times in the rest of the Bhagavad Gita. So similarly, every time I would face distress, Andal would come and tell me Ma suchaha. So she would say not to worry. We'll take care of this. And of course, that is what the Tiruppāvai is also about. She says, in the concluding pasuram of the Tiruppāvai, she says, Muppadum tappame. These 30 will never fail you.
So, but what is different? Because Tiruppāvai, any number of ad infinitum books have been written about it. So how is yours special and different from all of that? And do you follow a particular methodology that has already been there, or have you shifted the bar? Have you changed the methodology of delivery of what is written in this book?
Okay, so what I've done is not a literal translation of the verses of the Tiruppāvai. What I've done is a sort of an elaboration of the Tiruppāvai, with the substratum of the book being Vyakhyayana Chakravarti Periyavachan Pillai's commentary on the Tiruppāvai. That is the substratum of the book. But what I've done is I've taken that commentary and I've put it in the form of a conversation between Kodai and the other girls who are performing this Pavai Nombu with her. So how this book is different is that it presents the entire Tiruppāvai along with the references from older works which you would normally find in a commentary, but it presents them in the form of a conversation. For example, I'll just give you one example. In the first pasuram begins by saying Margari Tingal Madinirainda Nannalal. So the month of Margari is beginning with the auspicious Paurnami. So that's what the first verse says. Now, a commentary would tell you why Margari is special by referring to Bhagavad Gita. It would say where Krishna says Masanam Margasir Soham. So here what happens is Kodai gathers the girls of her village and she tells them that throughout Margari we need to perform this Pavai Nombu. One of the girls asks her, why Margari? This is such a, it's a relatively cool month in that part of Tamil Nadu. And especially during that time when we love sleeping in the mornings, you're asking us to get up early, come to perform this Nombu. So in response, Arundal says, or Kodai says, that Krishna himself has chosen this month. He has said, Masana Margasir Soham. And that is why we need to perform this during Margari. And the book goes in the same tone.
So you've connected the dots differently and made it like a conversational piece with Andal talking to her friends and bringing this out. Is that the essential difference in the book?
It is. When she talks about Nandagopa and when she talks about Yashoda, one of them asks, what does Krishna look like? And then she describes Krishna. Yasoda Elanchingam, Karmeni Chengan, Katirmadiyam Pol Mugattan. So that's how she describes Krishna. So when we get to that part of Chengan, or the red-eyed one, I've gone back to Chandogya Upanishad, which talks about the Parabrahma as Tasya Yata Kapyasam Pundarikam Eva Makshini. So I've gotten to that part which talks about Pundarikam Eva Makshini, and I've said where Andal says Chengan, Chandogya says Pundarikam Eva Makshini. Of course, it also is in as part of the conversation. So it does not say that this is from Chandogya Upanishad. It just mentions this line Tasya Yata Kapyasam Pundarikam Eva Makshini.
So this is from a very performer's perspective. I'm a performing artist. So obviously the Pavais, all of us have performed different ones, of course, as solo pieces. There have been people like Padma Subramaniam and others who have performed it as productions. So your writing, it will lend itself very beautifully to a performed act. Performed a performance, you think so?
I would like to think so, because it is in the form of a conversation. So two performers or a group of performers along with Kodai in the center could actually hold this conversation in a performance.
It would come from a different visual perspective, I think. Yeah. So that's very interesting. That's really an interesting space to look at.
Two reasons actually. One is of course that there is a lot of question and answer going. Why did I choose the format of a conversation? Because most of our texts, in fact all of our texts, be it the Prashnottara Ratnamalika of Shankara, which is probably the latest one among this. If you go back, the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. The Upanishads are conversations. The Puranas are conversations. A group of people ask, be it Shuka, be it some other sage, they ask him and he gives them a response. And these are all held in the form of conversations, which is why I thought this elaboration of the Tiruppāvai should also be in the form of a conversation. And that is one reason why I think it would work well in a dance performance. The other reason is that Pasurams 6 to 15, where Kodai goes and wakes up 10 different of her friends from the village, which is metaphorical of 10 different kinds of bhaktas who are already devoted to Krishna, but for some reason something is holding them back from joining in the Nombu, in the Pavai Nombu. So Kodai goes from Pasuram 6 to 15, every morning she goes to one house and wakes up that girl. So in the Tiruppāvai itself, Tal Tiruvai. So you have these 10 girls. In the Tiruppāvai, there is no conversation between Kodai and them except in the 15th Pasuram where the girl responds from inside. There are no names mentioned for these girls. But what I've done is I've taken the references or descriptions of the girl in the Pasuram and given them names. So the first Pasuram is Pullum Silambinakan. Pullarain Kovin Velle Vili Sangin Perarom Ketleo. So when it talks about Pullum Silambinakan literally means the birds are all quarreling with each other. So I've taken that, and the Sanskrit word for argumentative is sarika. That's the adjective for argumentative. Sarika is also the description of a kind of a bird. So that is why I've used Sarika as the name of the girl in that pasuram. And so on. For example, again, in the 14th pasuram. So Andal calls this girl as Navudayai, the one who's eloquent and can speak. And therefore she's named after Mukhari, which is also the raga.
Yes.
So
Beautiful. I think your in-depth research and cross-referencing will make this book a very interesting read, and I think people would want to own this book. So how long did it take you to, I'm sure you, as you rightly said, you were introduced to the Pasurams right from childhood, but the idea, the inception of the idea of writing the book and all the cross-referencing, was it something you had to dig deep over many years, or was it something that happened in a short period?
the reading, not just for this work, but the reading in general has been happening throughout. It's not a thing that you would put a time period on. The writing itself, if I were to put it that way, would be like I originally wrote this as a thread on Twitter. So it's one of those things that as much maligned
I've followed some of that.
yeah. So as much maligned as that platform is, it gave me a chance to attempt a lighter sort of an elaboration of the Tiruppāvai. The original idea was to see if I could write over 30 days these 30 pasurams and elaborate on them in no more than 15 tweets per pasuram. So that I already put a limit on how much I'm going to go with this. So with that is how I started, and this was December 21, Jan 22, that Margari. So that is when I started writing this, and by the end of Jan 22, mid Jan 22, when Margari ended and I had finished the thread, I had a lot of people asking if I would like to write this as a book. So that's where the idea for the book was born.
And Keshav came in then?
Yes, even for the Twitter thread, I had used his paintings to illustrate. I had asked in the first day itself that I'd be using it, and he gave the go-ahead. And when we decided to do it as a book, again, I went back to him. So yeah, the thing is, this is my first book, so I've not done this before. And I'm not methodically trained in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya to be able to write or attempt to write something on the Tiruppāvai. So there was a lot of doubt on this. But there were also, like I said, like Andal has always been telling me Masuchar. There were also a lot of positive signs that came around. A long lost friend came back and said hi. Somebody who was actually trained in the Sampradaya. And when I said I'm going to write this into a book, and the immediate response from this friend was, yeah, go ahead, let's do it. And then, when I wrote to Keshav, this was the first time Andal came and said about the book, she said, Masuchar, don't worry. Keshav immediately wrote back saying, yes, we can go ahead. So when Keshav and I wrote back and said, go ahead, I was like, wow, okay, so there's another positive sign, let's go ahead with this. And then, of course, finding the publisher is the second time Andal said, Masuchar. Then when we were planning the launch event, she again said, Masuchar, let's go ahead. And it was always that way. Muppadum tappame, you go ahead, I'm here with you, we'll do this.
How difficult was it? I mean, I'm coming to you now from the space that we inhabit, the other spaces, not the artistic spaces. So how difficult was it to balance out a very different world of the bureaucracy and administration? And did one help the other? Because I think they help each other, but what is your opinion on it?
They do. I mean, disciplining yourself and working on one helps, create blocks of time for you to work on the other. So if I were to go all MBA on you guys, but I want to do that, but if I were to do that, there's two kinds of tasks that everybody does at work. Every single person who works does two kinds of tasks. One is the kind of tasks that require a managerial mindset. This is, I need to get this lamp here, I need to place flowers, I need to light it. Then you have another set of tasks that require something called a maker's mindset, which is plan out the event, identify an appropriate venue. So the maker's mindset requires more ideation, it requires more brainstorming within yourself and with others. What this also means is that the managerial tasks need trickles of time, like 2 minutes, you're done with this. Another 2 minutes, you're done with that. But when you come to the maker's mindset, you need blocks of time. You need like 45 minutes at a stretch to focus on a particular task, lay it out in front of you on a piece of paper, and then get to work on that. So when we get to work, we need to plan our day accordingly so that we have enough bandwidth to do both kinds of tasks. Similarly, when it comes to Tiruppāvai. So the thing is, when I write a pasuram as a Twitter thread, let's say today's pasuram that I write as a Twitter thread, what I need to know is what exactly is the literal translation of the pasuram? What is the underlying sukshma meaning of the pasuram? And what are the references that commentators have given for the pasuram? The literal translation is something you can quickly look at. But the other two need blocks of time. So what I would do is, early in the morning, I would get up an hour early, I would, get through that, the essentials that are required, and I would, write the Twitter thread just before I left for work. Writing it as a Twitter thread meant that I wouldn't have to, frame gorgeous sentences or anything of that sort. I just had to get the message there. And the Twitter thread served as a good pointer place from where I could elaborate on later into the book.
I think I relate with you completely on this, because this has been my journey also, in the sense that, I've been a bureaucrat, and this whole idea of our administrative capabilities, strengths, which I have always called as core competency. It's core competency. And the other passion that we carry with ourselves, your writing, your ideating on Andal, or anything else that you will come up with, or my own dance for that matter, I call it core strength. And therein lies the difference. And I've always believed, as you rightly pointed out, that bureaucracy and administrative training and experience teaches us systems, processes, as you said, alignment,
Yes.
Managerial or administrative.
Yes.
But what the core strength teaches us is, it teaches us something. It teaches us to dig deep into just not just who we are, but into the civilizational, the large civilizational ocean that we are just a part of. And I think what you have done beautifully is to bring these administrative strengths into this. So I'm really looking forward to reading this book and buying the book and reading it. Because it's really exciting. I have followed your thread, so really excited about it.
Thank you.
And one little question that I must ask. And how helpful was bureaucracy for you for this? Or did they put blocks into it? You want to talk about it or not? You're still a serving officer, so I shouldn't be troubling you on that.
I'll tell you how it helped. Yeah. It helped me organize my thoughts better. And in my line of work, I'm a diplomat of the Indian Foreign Service. So in my line of work, most people say that nothing is what it seems on the surface. Similarly, Tiruppāvai is also not what it seems on the surface. On the surface, it's just 30 songs of 8 lines each, composed by one of the 12 Alvars. But when you just scratch the surface, I would say a lot of people told me that it is very difficult to attempt a book on the Tiruppāvai. But on the contrary, it is relatively easy to write a book on the Tiruppāvai, because no matter how deep you think you are going, you're just a kid on the surface splashing on the water. You're not digging deep. You're just because the depth is so much that no matter how deep you think you're going, it's like you may think that you're an expert diver and you're going 10 meters down. But Mariana's Trench is 13,000 meters down there. That's how the Tiruppāvai is. So for you to attempt writing on Tiruppāvai, it's got so much profundity in it that you can keep discovering new things upon every rereading. So when I wrote the thread, I came up with a few things, and when I was writing the book, those things that were not apparent to me earlier when I was writing the thread, they appeared to me, and I presented them to me. And now when I go back and look at the Tiruppāvai, there are more things that I'm like, no, I need to change what I wrote again and come back and write more.
Has Andal been your kavach against an administrative, bureaucratic shunning, a secular shunning also? Because I know it happens, that's why. So I'm coming from that space. There is in the system, there is a very clear, you don't get into all this, if you want to be seen as secular. So has that come your path?
Not really.
Okay. We'll do this off camera.
The honest answer still is not really.
Okay, I'm just kidding. No, that's wonderful because I think therein lies a change. So it's really exciting that to have you here, Jeysundhar.
Thank you.
And you're a young officer, and I think we are really
Not
looking
that young, but
not
thank
that
you.
young. 2012, you said batch. That's a young batch for us. So I'm really happy that you're getting into these spaces, and we want young writers like you writing on the civilizational aspects, and looking forward to Maalyada, to reading it, sharing it, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anandaka, for those questions. Sai has some specific questions about the book, and she would want to discuss those with Jay. We have some time, so Sai.
Sure.
So first, I really love the title because I'm Telugu.
Yeah.
I have a super special connection to Tiruppāvai because my grandmother used to sing it. And I've been trying to learn, again, I must have done a bad job, but I'm trying to learn. And then, so I think everyone has their personal connection and kind of emotional connection to Andal and Tiruppāvai. But so I love the title because, again, it comes from Krishna Devaraya's
Amukta
title.
Maalyada.
Yeah, so Amukta Maalyada. Amukta means worn, and Maalyada is, again, the worn garland, the donor of the garland.
Yeah.
So I love the title. That's one. So the three different things I want to talk about your book is first the style.
Yeah.
So I love that it's not just another commentary. I feel like it, like you said, it's narrativized. It's written in the form of a conversation, a story, and that makes it so much easier for people to connect with it, kind of introduce them to it. I think it'd be a lovely book for children to kind of get a taste of Andal and her bhakti and what it really means, and kind of celebrate her through the month, like follow along with the book, maybe celebrate her along with the book. And you said you received a comment along the same line. So that's what I was thinking when I actually read
The
it.
feedback from the initial readers is along the same lines that one of them actually said that he sat this Saturday morning along with his daughter to read Maalyada, and they both had a really great time going through the introduction chapter of the book. So in fact, if you were to look at the introduction chapter, there's one of the paintings by Keshavanna in that book that I've used in the introduction chapter is of Periyarvar actually having young Kodai on his lap and showing to her about Krishna Anubhava and how to go about the Pavai Nombar. That is also how I envisioned the book, as something that parents would have their children next to them and read to them, read along with them, and enjoy the entire conversation of Kodai and her friends in the company of their children is how I envisioned the book. That is how I thought we could carry this over to the next generation.
Yeah, and then the second thing I want to bring up is obviously the illustrations, which are gorgeous. And I feel like, again, it's a visual aid for children. It's also, since Hindu art is like becoming less and less accessible, I feel like it's a lovely way to kind of introduce people to certain elements of art and all of that. And it's kind of modern art as well, watercolor and all of that. So I think it's a lovely way. Plus, I love that it's not a discombobulated text and a picture. I feel like you've really followed along with what the picture is doing. Like, for example, the one that you mentioned, there's a mirror there and she's looking at her, and then you describe that she's looking in the mirror, she sees Krishna, and then she's thinking about what to do with that garland, and Krishna gives her the go-ahead to wear it. And then I feel like I think that's a lovely moment that you've like actually captured. Again,
So there's two parts in the Tiruppāvai. In the Maalyada book, there were mirrors are involved. The first is in the introduction itself, which is the background story of how Kodai becomes Amukta Maalyada. Is where so the backstory is that Periyarvar and Kodai, their Nitya Kainkarya, their daily Kainkarya is to get flowers from a garden, thread them into a garland, and take that garland to the Vatapatra Sai temple in the village. So one fine day, what happens is Kodai, young girl Kodai, gets this idea of trying on the garland. And when she tries it on, she goes in front of the mirror, and in the mirror, she sees Krishna. She does not see herself wearing the garland, she sees Krishna. And she has a conversation with him. That's how the book is written. In Maalyada introduction, she has a conversation with Krishna. And she asks Krishna if this looks nice, and Krishna has a smile on his face as always. And she takes that to be his assent for her wearing the garland. But before her father comes, she places it back on the plate and goes back to doing whatever she was doing. This continues for a few days until one day Periyarvar actually sees this. he's very upset by this, and then he gets another set of flowers, makes another garland, and goes to the temple. But finally, when he gets that garland to the temple, and the garland is placed on the murti, it falls down to the ground. And this happens a couple of more times until a Nasariri, a voice sounds across the Garbhagriha where it says that the Murti, where Vishnu himself says, or Vatapatra Sai as he is in that temple, he says that he will wear only those garlands that Kodai has worn first. And that's how she becomes Amukta Maalyada, she who wore and gave it to the Lord. Or as we say in Tamil, Sudi Kodutha Sudar Kodi. And it is after this, with the blessings of the Lord, that she goes about. So this is the first instance where you have the mirror, with Kodai looking at the mirror and seeing Krishna there. The next one is later when she requests Nappinai, who she describes as Lakshmi, Sri. And where she seeks from Nappinai two kinds of gifts. She says, Ukkamum Tattoliyum, which is, she asks for a fan, a hand fan, and then she asks for a mirror. So in my book, I've described this as, why is she asking for a fan? Because she wants to blow away the ahankara and the mamakara. So when you blow away these two faults and then you seek tattoli or the mirror, when your ahankara and mamakara is blown away, and when you look at your face in the mirror, it is not your face that you will see, but Krishna's face. Because you as an aham is already taken away.
So again, this is such a gorgeous, bhakti-laden kind of, just literary oeuvre of the Sri Vaishnavas. And I think bringing this in this book has been like amazing. I started reading and I intend to finish it, but the other aspect I want to bring up, the third one, is the content. So I want you to talk a little bit about how, I think you didn't stick to the Tiruppāvai, you also made sure to bring in references where necessary. So a lot of stuff from the Bhagavatam, from what I saw, the Gita, and different Puranas and like even Upanishads. So again, they say that Andal's pasurams are all very true to the Upanishads. They say they are Upanishad content. And in fact, the first one starts with in Margadi Tingal, Namake Namai Tarvan. So, Narayanane Namak. So that's supposed to be like the Panchakshara Mantram in Tamil. So again, it's just a lovely kind of condensation of all of these different references and all of the content that needs to be brought out to the public, honestly. And again, I'm Telugu, and I think the Tamils are far more in tune with Andal, and kind of they celebrate her every Margadi. So I want you to talk about the content and how you've diversified and brought in a bunch of different things.
So later Acharyas described the Tiruppāvai in Tamil as Vedamanaitukkum Vittagum, or the seed of all Vedas, that it contains the condensed wisdom of the Vedas, the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. So how this manifests in effect is something that I'd like to describe. I'd like to take a few minutes and describe this. So within the 30 pasurams of the Tiruppāvai, you have the 9 types of the Navavida Bhakti that is described in the Bhagavata Purana. Within the 30 pasurams. Also within the 30 pasurams, you have the Rahasya Trayam that is held sacred in the Sri Vaishnava. So how this happens is something I'll just describe. So we're familiar with the 9 types of Bhakti. I'll just take each one of them and I'll show you where it manifests in the pasurams of the Tiruppāvai. So we take those 9 forms of Bhakti and we divide them into 3 categories. Okay? The first one is that which you perform practically anywhere. So this is Shravana, Smarana and Nama Sankirtana. Shravana is hearing the name of the Lord. So in the very first pasuram, Andal describes Krishna to her friends, which I said earlier, Karmeni Chengan Kadirmadiyam Pol Mugattan. And the very next line she says, Narayanane Namake Parai Taruvan. So the Narayana Nama is already present in the first pasuram itself, where Shravana is present. In the second pasuram, she concludes by saying, Uyyumar Enni Ugandelor Empavai. Uyyum Aru Enni Ugandelor. And let's think about the 6 qualities of Bhagavan and let us pray to him. So that is Smarana, thinking about the 6 qualities of Bhagavan, the 6 opulences of Bhagavan. In the third pasuram, which you performed today, can you just give us the first line? Yeah. Ongi Ulagalanda, Uttaman Per Padi.
Yeah, so singing his name.
Right. Nama Sankirtana. Right. So when we sing the glory of that Uttama, who rose up and measured all 3 worlds. Ongi Ulagalanda, Uttaman Per Padi. So when she says Padi, she already describes Nama Sankirtana right there. So this is the first 3, which you can perform anywhere. The next three are those that you usually perform when there is an Archavatara Murti, be it a painting or a Vigraha. So, what are these three? These three are Vandana,
Arimari.
Vandana,
Okay.
Archana, and Abhisheka Padasevana. So, Vandana, Archana, and Padasevana.
Yeah. Okay.
So, when we come to the fourth pasuram, she says, Arimare Kanna Undrini Kai Karavel. Do this for me, please.
Right.
So, that is Vandana. Okay. In the fifth pasuram, Andal says, in the fifth line of the fifth pasuram. So, she starts by saying, Mayanai Mannu Vadamadurai Maindanai. Slowly she comes down and she says, Tuyomai Vandanam Tumalar Tuvit Toludu. We come purified of our sins and we worship you with pure flowers. Tuyomai Vandanam Tumalar Tuvit Toludu. Pure flowers. So that's Archana right there. And after this, after covering this ground, then she goes around waking up all the girls in the village. So there's a short, let's say, interregnum where she goes around waking up all the girls in the village, and then she starts. Now, the third part of the Navavida Bhakti is something that you actually need the presence of Bhagavan. You cannot do it through an Archavadara Murti. You need actually, why? Because this is Sakhya, Dasya and Atma Nivedana. This can be performed only when you are in the same plane as Bhagavan. So to do that, what does Andal do? She slowly moves, after she has woken up all her friends, she slowly moves closer and closer to Krishna. In the 16th Pasuram, she goes to Nandagopan's house. So Nayaganai Nindra is essentially Andal going to the guard of Nandagopal's house, seeking his permission to go inside. And once she goes inside, she goes to Nandagopa, then she goes to Yashoda, and then she requests Baladeva, and then once again she goes back to Nandagopa, and Nandagopa leads her to Nappinai. So she follows the entire protocol, as we would know in government service. She follows the entire protocol and finally reaches Nappinai. So there are three pasurams where Andal speaks to Nappinai. It is only after that, with Nappinai's permission, that she goes to the same plane as Krishna. What we call this? We call it Salokya. She attains Salokya with Krishna as she goes to the 21st Pasuram. So once she gets there, you also have Padasevana right there in the 21st Pasuram itself. And then the 22nd Pasuram describes Anganma Nyalatarasar. So Anganma Nyalatarasar is what I have illustrated in my book as the instance where both Duryodhana and Arjuna go to meet Krishna to seek his support for the coming Kurukshetra war. So what happens there is, as we know, Duryodhana seats himself on the side of Krishna's head and Arjuna stands by his feet. What happens because of that? When Krishna gets up, his eyes first follow upon Arjuna. His eyes first fall upon Arjuna. He does not even look at Duryodhana sitting by his side. So, this is why this chapter in my book is titled as Krishna Kataksha. Because Arjuna gets that Krishna Kataksha in this chapter. And because of this, what happens is, the seventh part of the Navavida Bhakti, Sakhya, that happens. So Arjuna becomes a Sakha to Krishna in this chapter. And once you reach that, once you reach this stage of being a Sakha, you take some sort of advantage over your friend, which is why in the 23rd Pasuram, Kodai and friends, they actually ask Krishna, because in earlier chapters, they say we should go to Krishna. In 23, they talk about a lion which is sleeping in a cave, and they ask that lion to get up, spread its hair, and come and sit on the Singhasana that they have placed. So instead of them going to Krishna, they ask Krishna to get up from the cave and come and sit next to them. So, I mean, this cave, of course, is what Upanishads calls Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam. So they say that there is this cave of the mind where the Paramatma is, and that Paramatma has to be woken up from that cave, which is what Andal describes in the 23rd Pasuram. And because it talks about the lion coming towards them, I've titled it as Simhagati in my book. So once you have that, the Sakhya Bhava is already there. Now, the lion comes and he sits on the Sinhasana. Okay? Once that happens, what is the next Pasuram? Where Andal praises every part of Krishna's body. Andru Ivvulagam Alandai Adi Potri, and so on and so forth. So this I have titled as Mangala Sasanam. So now that Krishna has come and sat in front of them, they have already achieved Salokya, and Salokya happened in the 21st Pasuram itself. Now the lion has come and sat next to them in the Sinhasana. This is Samipya. So Salokya and Samipya are achieved. Okay, so they pray to Krishna, and in that the Dasya Bhava is predominantly present. When they do potri, the Dasya Bhava is in full manifestation. Okay, and after this, the next pasuram is where she asked for Vrata Upakarana. So she asks for Krishna's conch. She asks for Kola Kodiye Vidaname and all that. So she asks for all these, which I have titled as Vrata Upakarana. So Krishna, in my book, he asks them, why do you need all these? These are all mine to have. Why do you need all this? So she says, we need to have Sarupya with you. We've already taken Salokya and Samipya. Now it's time for Sarupya. We need to have the same appearance as you. So we are taking your conch, we are taking your flag, we're taking this Vidanam that is yours. We're taking all of that, not only to serve you, but also attain similarity of form with you through Sarupya. So, and then of course, is the next chapter, which is Sammana, which was yesterday, Kudaravalli. So that is when they get the gifts of having done the Pavai Nombu. So when we get to that Sammana, is where the experience of Krishna Anubhava is fully present. And in the 29th Pasuram, Kodai shifts and she says, now that you have given us this, we would like to have nothing else but this over and over again for several births. She does not say we no longer want any birth. She says for several births we need to do only your Kainkarya. So this chapter in my book is called Kainkarya Prarthana. And that is manifestation of Atmanivedana. And thereby, through these 30 pasurams, Andal has a manifestation of the Navavida Bhakti. Similarly, with the Rahasya Trayam. Now, the Rahasya Trayam is the three mysteries that are worshipped in Sri Vaishnavism. So, the first one is the Ashtakshara Mantra. Om Namo Narayanaya. In the very first pasuram, we have Narayanane Namakke Paraidaruvan. The second one is the Dvaya Mantra. So, Srimad Narayana Sharanam Sharanam Prapte Srimade Narayana Namaha. Andal dedicates 3 pasurams just to Sri. Why does she do that? In the first pasuram, she calls Sri as Padmahasta. The chapter is titled Padmahasta in my work. She is seeking the permission of Sri. So she says, Nappinai holds the world as a ball of flowers in her hand, and she plays with it. And she requests that Nappinai to come and open the door so that they can go inside and worship Krishna. The second chapter, the second pasuram where Sri comes is the 19th pasuram overall. Is what I've titled as Ekaseshitvam. Why? Because in this pasuram, Kodai explains to us that Vishnu and Lakshmi are 2 parts of the same singular whole. That they are the Ekaseshi. They are, Ekaseshi. When I say Eka, it's singular. You cannot separate them one from the other. And this is manifested in the Ramayana, for example, where Surpanaka seeks to attain Rama, but not Sita. Ravana seeks to attain Sita, but not Rama. So, you cannot attain one without the other. They are Ekaseshi. You can attain both only together. Which is why that chapter is called Ekaseshitvam. And the next one I've titled as Sri. What are the qualities that make her Sri? I've listed them down as her first quality is Shravayati. That she hears whatever prayers that we have. Shrunoti. She hears whatever prayers that we have. Shravayati. She makes the Lord hear whatever prayers we have. And then she sets about resolving these problems for us. And it is only with her blessings that we can approach him. And this is what makes her Sri. And in this part of being Ekaseshi, that is where the Dvaya Mantra also comes. Srimate Narayanaya Namaha. Narayana is not, separate from Sri. And this I've illustrated with 2 different verses from the Ramayana. Where in the first part, in the first verse, Sita says that she and Rama are as inseparable as the sun and its light. And Kodai says this to Sri, sitting inside. She says, when Sri says, yeah, I am here, but he is not here, Kodai responds by saying, how can that be the case? Did you not say that you and he are inseparable as the sun and its light? And in response to that, I've written it this way, that Nappinai blushes at the recollection of the memory. And she responds by saying, it was not just me who said that. Rama also says this in the Ramayana, that he and Sita are as inseparable as the sun and its light. So that is how the Ekaseshitvam has been demonstrated in that book. And that is what the Dvaya Mantra is all about.
And Andal appeals to Sri to kind of unite her with Krishna.
Exactly.
And she's an intermediary.
Yeah.
And she herself she's not just an Alvar, but she's also an Avatara. She's an Avatara of Bhudevi. And she's propitiated as such even today. So I feel like that kind of ties everything together. She
Yeah.
appeals to both Shri and Narayana. It kind of sets kind of, like you said,
Sets the larger
bhakti-
framework,
yeah, exactly.
And the third of the Rahasya Trayam is the Charama Sloka of the Mahabharata, of the Bhagavad Gita. So in that, what do you have? The entire context of the Charama Sloka is about Saranagati. Because what does Krishna tell Arjuna? Whatever I have told you, whatever you know, Sarva Dharman, all that you know, all that you have learned, Sarva Dharman Parityacha, discard all of them. Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshaisyami masuchaha. Even there he says masuchaha. Forget all that I have taught you, that may be of big burden to you. Just come and come to the refuge of my feet. Even if that seems difficult to you, masuchaha, I will take care of things. If I can come for Gajendra, I can also come for... Gajendra does not know any dharma. Gajendra is an elephant. If by just Gajendra saying Om Namo Bhagavate, the Bhagavan can rush to him, then he will obviously rush to Arjuna as well, and to us as well. So the entire context of the Tiruppāvai is also about the same Saranagati. And therefore, in those 30 pasurams, Andal manifests the Rahasya Trayam that are then laid out later by Sri Vaishnava Acharyas. Similarly, sticking on to the theme of Sharanagati, we are familiar with Vedanta Desika's Artha Panchakam. So what happens is, in the Artha Panchakam, you have 5 entities. One set of 5 entities which are the Prapyam, the Upayam, the Prapti or attainment of the Prapyam, and you have Prapanna, which is anybody who's striving towards Prapyam, and you have the Prapti Virodhi. Okay, so how does Andal manifest this? Now these are 5 different entities. Andal does not need 30 pasurams to do this. She does not even need one pasuram. She does this in just one verse. And that verse does not even have 5 words, it has 4 words. And she demonstrates this Artha Panchaka 5 within that 4 words. How does she do that? Which pasuram is that? It's the very first pasuram. You don't even have to go all the way to the 30th. Very first pasuram. In Margadi Tingal, the verse is Narayanane Namakke Parai Taruvan. Okay? So how does Artha Panchaka get covered by Narayanane Namakke Parai Taruvan? We'll just break this verse and join it to see how this works. Okay? Narayanane Namakke Parai Taruvan. Okay? First one, Narayanane Parai. Okay? By that we say that Narayana is Parai, or he is the Prapyam. Okay? Narayanane Parai Taruvan. He is the giver of that Parai also. He is not only Parai, he is the giver of that Parai, and therefore he is Upayam also. He is Upayam and Prapyam. Okay? So who is he giving that Upayam, who is he giving that Prapyam to? To us, Namakke. So we are the Prapannas. Okay? What is he giving? He is giving Parai or Paramapada, which is what we are looking for, which is the Prapti. Okay? 4 words, 4 qualities of Artha Panchaka. There's still one left. Prapti Virodhi. How does Andal do that? She does not say Narayanan Namakke Parai Taruvan. She says Narayanane Namakke Parai Taruvan. When she says Narayanane, in that she says that it is only Narayana who will give us what we seek, the Parai that we seek. Which means anything that takes us away from that Parai giver Narayanan is Prapti Virodhi. So within 4 words, Andal demonstrates the Artha Panchaka. And that is why I think we should write about the Tiruppāvai.
Absolutely. And also, again, kind of setting the context, also the larger context, Andal kind of imagines herself as a Gopika because, from Srivilliputturu, she can't really travel to Mathura and Vrindavan and kind of experience Krishna's kind of the gardens he roamed and all his leelas for herself. So I feel like she kind of recreates all of this imagery, and I love that you kind of brought it to life. You also drew a lot from commentary and upanyasams, which you don't really see in English books. So I've read only academic translations. My favorite is by Archana Venkatesan from UC Davis. You might know her. So she kind of translates. She's a lovely translator. But only when we kind of bring in all this context can we experience the text like a lived tradition, the way it's meant to be. And I think that's what you've really successfully done.
Thank you.
And I think we can end here because we're kind of running out of time unless you have anything else to say.
No, I'm good.
Okay. And so, again, I just want to end with... so this is a small translation of a line or a stanza from Mamukta Maalyada, which translated by Srinivas Reddy, but obviously written by Krishna Devaraya. To escape the intense heat of the 12 Aditya suns, Vishnu resides in the cool, loving hearts of the 12 Alvar saints, intoxicated by the sweet cascades of nectar that fill their lotus minds. In my search for salvation, I honor these luminous bodies, 12 blessed souls of this earth.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you
This
so
is
much.
this is
Jay.
just in line with what Krishna tells Narada in the Padma Purana. In fact, my book begins with that quotation from the Padma Purana, where Krishna tells Narada, "Naham vasami Vaikuntena yoginam hridayena cha." So he says he does not reside in Vaikuntha or in the minds of yogis. So he says, Madbhakta yatra gayanti tatra tishtami Narada. He says, that is where I stay. Tatra tishtami Narada. Yeah, Madbhakta yatra gayanti, where my devotees are singing my name and dance around in ecstasy, that is where I stay.
Yeah, Hanuman says the same thing.
Exactly.
Yatra yatra Raghuvan. So again, so many references that you brought to life, which is what makes this work, I think, very unique in the kind of line of commentaries. Plus, again, I feel like it'd be a lovely gift for children. We encourage you to pick up the book. We have plenty of copies for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jay, for coming to Hyderabad,
Thank you so much.
for being here, for a lovely session and for speaking about your
Thank
book.
you.
Thank you so much.
I mean, the book has about 100 paintings by Keshav. So it makes for not just a book for reading, but also for gifting to others. You could get more copies for yourself and give to others. And you could also, it works as a collectible as well. So I look forward to your reviews of the book. Thank you.